Hey everybody, Adam Savage at Global Effects with Chris Gilman. How are you, my friend?
Good.
Chris rents spacesuits to everybody, and one of his specialties is historical spacesuits, but they also design suits. If you come with your sci-fi movie, you guys will make what is necessary. And this is the sci-fi aisle, so we're going to take a tour through that. I'm sorry, I just looked past your shoulder and saw Nathan Fillion. Is this Serenity?
It is, yeah, it is Serenity.
Dude, I literally just spotted,
So you'll recognize this, I'm sure.
Oh,
loop tape.
Yes, the loop tape.
So we decided to use loop tape to hold the plates in because they did want to have damage and not have damage. Do you recognize this?
No,
It's an Apollo RCU.
Oh, yes, of course it is. Oh, upside down. Oh, that's awesome.
When a client comes to us and says, we want a sci-fi thing or we want, and so the example that I use with armor is when somebody comes and says, we want armor, I said, are you doing a medieval picture or are you doing a mid-evil picture? Because if it's mid-evil, we can do anything you want.
Right.
But if it's a medieval picture, then this is the right thing that you would use.
Right, it's got to be exactly.
So when we do sci-fi, it's kind of the same thing.
Right.
Do we not care?
Right.
And we just gonna look cool? Or do we care?
Oh, can you show me extreme examples of both?
Try, yeah. So, okay, well.
What are these from?
There's roadside picnic, and that never got released. These are more of like a bomb suit.
Yeah.
So not really a spacesuit, but it had a lot of things in it that would be difficult to work in.
Totally.
Like these giant things in front of your arms.
Yeah.
And one of the things that it gets me is when they want to put readouts and switches on the backpack. Who are those for?
Who's going to read that?
In the shuttle suit, the reason that DCM, the display control module, the reason it's so high is when that pressure bubble is on, your head is right here.
Yeah.
And all you can do is this and this.
Right.
And so that readout has to be right here. They have a mirror on their glove so they can read the front of it. So what do you do with switches and readouts back here, right?
Absolutely ludicrous.
On the opposite end of that, when we did Ad Astra, James Gray said, we really want this to be super realistic.
Yeah.
I said, okay, so first we start off with Brad Pitt on a tower in a working environment. So he's going to want to be in a pressure suit that probably is closest to an ACES suit, and he's going to do a parachute, an involuntary parachute jump. So you're going to want to make it orange because he goes, well, why orange? I said, because the surface of the Earth is brown and blue and green, and orange stands out no matter where. Right? So we did, for the first commercial spacesuit, we made a NASA cover letter in orange.
Nice, yeah.
Now, one of the fun things we used in this black material is actually Scotch-Light.
Oh, nice.
So if you were to take a strobe picture of that, it would be bright white.
Light up.
But we could do it in black, so it's stylish.
I dig it.
Yeah. So for Ad Astra, I said he'd probably wear an orange suit. And so we used the ACES suit as kind of a basis, but they really liked the S-1030 helmet, the high altitude helmet.
Yeah.
So that's what he used. Well, now he has to take commercial flight to the moon. So we have the commercial spacesuits that we did.
Oh, wow.
That were kind of featureless because you have to, and I've worked on real commercial spacesuits, so you have to think of a commercial or a spacesuit like this is really nothing more than a full-bodied version of the oxygen mask you'd have in an airplane.
Right.
Right? Because at the altitude you're flying, you don't have the pressure around you so that you can just increase the quantity of oxygen you breathe. You actually need the pressure as well.
Right.
But you don't need it to have a lot of features because as a passenger,
it's
they
just
don't really want you to do anything.
This is a I won't die by the end of the day suit, not a let me go to work in space suit.
In fact, in the commercial world, we refer to it as a get-me-down suit.
Yes. Here we go.
So then we did other versions for the pilot and the stewardess.
These are lovely.
So we tried to keep a realistic looking thing, but more sci-fi.
I really dig it.
Now he has to go to the moon and travel across the moon on the surface. I said, okay, well, now you're in a third suit because these suits are so specific. I mean, this is like a car or a truck or a motorcycle. It's a really specific piece of equipment.
For a specific environment.
Absolutely, and a use. So then we were going to come up with a military moon suit.
Oh, I love this. Yeah.
Then he gets to the other side of the planet, of the moon, and he has to fly to Mars. So he'd be in another suit because it's a launch entry suit that you should be wearing.
Yeah.
Now, again, not really understanding how gravity works, they stop partway.
Right.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
so you bring enough fuel to slow your vehicle down, and you have to bring enough fuel to start it back up again.
Right,
But
right.
okay.
Yeah.
But you're going to do a spacewalk, so that's another suit. And then the scene was, oh, their helmet's going to get busted, but he's going to grab a helmet off the shelf and put it on. And I said, this is a French research satellite? And they, yeah. You're going to take a helmet, the French suit, and put it on. I said, we can't even use each other's phone chargers. What makes you think, oh, yeah, okay. Well, maybe we just duct tape the helmet. Yeah. And then when he gets to Mars, he should be in a different suit.
Yeah.
And then he goes out to the outer region. James could realize that, okay, there's too much
We have to
inconsistency.
bound this problem.
Yeah.
Damn.
So we did these for the commercial.
Yeah.
We did the orange for the white. And then for the rest, we used a sort of Apollo-esque
Oh, yeah. God, I
suit.
totally can see Brad Pitt wearing this. I remember
And they
this.
loved the Teflon, so they wanted to use
looks
Teflon.
amazing.
Yeah.
The slight, the wrinkling that it does, it's like nothing else quite gets that.
No. And somebody asked me why we use it. I said, because no other fabric, it's called hand. Fabric has a hand.
Right. Oh.
And I tell people, I said, look, you look at Fred Astaire's jacket and you look at John Travolta's jacket. In simplified terms, they're basically a men's suit jacket, except
Right.
one's made out of really fine wool, the other's made out of polyester, but they look completely different.
Right.
So that's the reason that you might do it out of Teflon or Nomex or something.
Tell me about these beautiful ones up here. Is that?
So these were done for a Disney movie called Mission to Mars. Long, long ago, before there was the big Mission to Mars movie.
Yeah.
And it got retitled something else. It was a low-budget film.
They're lovely.
And so these are really great, inexpensive disconnects.
Yeah.
They're duct couplings.
Oh, brilliant. It's just a 6-inch duct coupling.
Yeah. And we use the 12-inch ones for the neck, 10-inch ones.
Genius.
Yeah. So all we have to do is where the pins lock,
Yeah.
we put a little spring catch on them and we shorten the pins and you can snap them in and they work great. This was a fun show.
All right.
Now, unfortunately, they got dirty and we tried to dye them and they all sort of came out different colors. These were done for Castle, another Fillion.
Oh, yeah.
We have Nathan in these too. But these were patterned off of, the idea of these came from these. We were asked
This is great.
to do a movie about climbing Olympus Mons.
Oh, shit. The
Right
tallest
now.
mountain on Mars.
Yeah. And now Olympus Mons is bigger than the state of Arizona. And we shot this on Reunion Island, which is essentially the French version of Hawaii.
Okay. All right.
It has a 10,000-foot volcanic peak.
Oh, wow.
And from the top of it, because I've been there,
Yeah.
you can see Madagascar.
Oh, my gosh.
And we were with Brian Blessed, right?
Right,
King of the
right.
Hawkmen. He was awesome. We had a guy named Steve Bell who had climbed Everest like 6 or 7 times.
Crazy.
Catherine Destiville, who's a free climber. Had all these great people. And it was sort of a semi-documentary thing. But we had to build spacesuits they could actually mountain climb in.
Oh, wow.
So we built double-walled helmets.
And that's why the soft neck rings.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh,
so we actually got to go mountain climbing in spacesuits.
That must have been thrilling for you
was
every day.
Yeah, it
I
was
would
awesome.
imagine, seeing your suits out there in the wilderness.
But they got stained, and I asked somebody to dye them, and they weren't able to come all the same color. So no, I have a variety. So the show,
Yeah. These.
that's why they're so small. It was mainly for kids.
Oh, wow.
And
These are lovely. These are really beautiful.
Thanks.
I mean, just the color and the layout is really nice.
again, we try to feel what a real suit would be, but not, make it a
I like
historic.
the judicious use of Velcro.
Yep.
What is that?
It's a Sokol suit, just in black and gold.
Amazing.
So a lot of times, now in this case, I had a real Sokol suit that we patterned.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll make a pattern, and then we'll make a test or a prototype.
Yeah.
Well, they're always doing the prototype out of, whatever fabric we're hanging around.
Yeah.
And I said, look, let's make it out of some cool looking fabric so that we can use the prototype for something.
Sure.
So I said, make the prototype in black and gold. And so there we go.
Amazing.
And then-
I was like, is
then-
this from Gold Member?
Yeah. And then we made anodized
I
gold.
love it.
This was for, I don't remember, Land of the Lost. The opening sequence where the guy in the future gets nailed by the dinosaur.
Yeah.
But this is a technique we came up with for Sky High.
Okay.
And it's silicone cast into fabric. So acid machining or chemical machining is where you spray acid from 2 different sides and of a piece of sheet metal.
Yeah.
And it will cut a percentage in from both sides.
Yeah.
If it equals 100%, it makes
With
a hole.
masking, et
Yeah,
cetera.
masking.
Okay, right.
The other technique we use is magnesium etching. Now with CNC and 3D printing, it sort of
it's
changes
less
things.
necessary.
But at the time, if you need to do a complex pattern, when you etch magnesium, it cuts super fast.
Yeah.
And it won't undercut nearly as bad as other metals. So you can have fine detail next to coarse detail in a cut. And you've used it probably more than you realize.
Huh.
Rubber stamps.
Oh,
That's how they make rubber stamps.
amazing.
What we would do is take the acid etching of the magnesium and make a mold.
Amazing.
And then we pour the silicone in it and then carefully set the fabric down, put a thin piece of foam on, and then put it in a press and clamp it. And then when the silicone cures, it's bonded right into the fabric.
They are one. Yeah. Gorgeous. Crazy.
So these were done for Legion. And they brought us this cool fabric, and it's sort of a so cool suit, sort of, but it's just really cool material.
It is almost like spacer mesh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And on camera, it looks awesome.
I can only imagine.
Cool suits. This is actually the cool suit that I invented, because my thought was if you take a round object and set it against a flat object.
I've always had that thought.
You only
Your
get 2%.
contact point is very low.
Exactly.
I said that to someone at NASA, and they're like, no, it's the big problem.
Yeah.
So you have flat tubing?
Nope. It's ultrasonically welded.
Oh, wow. Much more surface contact area.
Right, and you see how close these channels can get. You see how close my channels can get.
This has far more contact area than any one of these.
It does. This is a serpentine system. If I crimp this hose, I shut off the entire system.
Right, one point of failure.
Well, automotive radiators don't work that way for that reason.
Right, it's a spread.
So the fluid comes in one side, flows across, and exits the other side.
Oh, that's got to feel great for the actor, too.
Yeah, and I can crush off any area I want, and it'll still flow.
Oh,
so we're talking about
helmets.
Brad Pitt's helmet. So there's an S1030. That was one of Brad's helmets from.
Gorgeous.
So all of this is all spun cast pewter. I'm very fortunate, again, because I've developed a relationship with a lot of these aerospace people. I've had people send me real hardware.
Yeah.
How I got a real S1030 helmet was the Air Force sent me one.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, why in the world would the Air Force need a copy helmet?
Yeah.
Because David Clark, that's pretty much the company that makes these, that's pretty much their only client. And the Air Force has got hundreds of these, literally.
Yeah.
ITAR is an international trade agreement of arms.
Oh, so they couldn't put these,
You
let
can't
this leave
take
the
these-
United States.
Right, because any space-based
they're
technology is a weapons-based technology.
Amazing. Right.
So they couldn't bring these. If they went to a show in Japan, they couldn't leave these. They'd have to take them back to the hotel room.
Right.
So our copies
Are on display. Oh,
so we ended up making, so they sent me one, we were able to mold. So one of the reasons we use the pewter is that I can mold the hardware directly off real hardware and make it work.
Right.
And I'll re-engineer it. Like you'll notice threaded inserts in here because the pewter is soft enough that in a thin piece, it's not going to hold threads.
Yeah.
So we'll put threaded inserts in, or we'll increase the depth of the threads or things like that.
Sure.
So these are Russian, these were done for all mankind. These are Russian helmets that we pretty much left alone. We added a fan system in them.
This is a real thing.
This is a real one.
Yeah, I got one of these on eBay.
Yeah, and so did we.
Yeah.
Now,
And then you guys modified them to make them wearable and blows them out. No one's inhaling whatever asbestos was in there.
exactly.
What is this beautiful thing?
That was from the bomb suits.
And this was supposed to be some kind of heads-up display?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
And so there's a lot 3D printed there and then molded and cast.
3D printing, I really appreciate what it's added to the process. I know that early on it was really, really spotty and hit and miss, but man, now it's like I'm a full convert.
So this is not really sci-fi. This is historical. This is an MA2 helmet, and you used to be able to buy these in the back of comic books for like $10. They were cheap, but you couldn't get the faceplates because when you put the faceplate on, it seals the helmet, and they were worried kids would suffocate.
Oh.
So they ordered all the visors smashed. So now when you find these helmets,
They have no visor.
Yeah, exactly, and with a visor, they're 10 times the value.
Oh, right, of course.
So we ended up replicating the visors so that we could fill in visors for people that don't have them.
I love it.
And then we took a regular flight helmet. It's just regular flight helmet.
Yeah.
And we had it nickel plated.
I love it. By Art Metal?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we made up oxygen mask just out of found parts.
What was this for?
These are from Armageddon. I don't remember.
I love it.
I mean, we do this so long.
Nickel plated.
Exactly,
Yeah, no,
and they ran out all the time.
This looks like almost like a Frazetti painting.
Well, they wanted these sort of, almost what would be the Mobius.
Yeah,
it was almost like a Mobius.
That's what it reminds me.
Yeah,
of.
It was almost a Mobius thing they
Yeah.
wanted. So we took a bunch of parts that we had and sort of made up 2 of these suits.
And this was for a demo for an art director.
It was, it might have been a music video actually.
Okay,
We originally done.
all right.
We'd done 2 of them.
Dude, it's really lovely. Nice. I really feel the Mobius vibe here. Super.
That's a rubber boot off the rear view mirror of my Yamaha motorcycle. That is part of the goggles from VR Troopers, the Saban show.
Of course. This is lovely. I love it, dude. This is so inspiring. This feels like a career path I would have really enjoyed had I jumped in, and it's just what you made out of it is really inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming by.